Growing up, my older brother Alex was the golden child, the smart one, the one with the bright future. My parents never said it outright, but I always knew he was their pride, their investment. I, on the other hand, was just there. It wasn't that I was stupid. I got decent grades. I worked hard. But in my parents' eyes, hard work wasn't the same as natural talent, and Alex had talent. He didn't have to study much to ace his tests. Teachers loved him. He could charm his way out of trouble, while I was the kid who had to prove himself over and over just to get half the recognition. The favoritism started small. When Alex wanted the newest gaming console, my parents bought it without hesitation. When I wanted one, I was told to save up. When he needed a car for college, they got him a brand new one. I got a used Honda that barely made it up hills. By the time high school ended, I had already accepted how things were. Alex was the son they were investing in. I was the one they expected to take care of himself. So I did. I went to a state college, worked nights and weekends, waiting tables, tutoring, anything to keep myself afloat. Meanwhile, Alex got into an elite private university. My parents covered everything: tuition, rent, living expenses. They said he needed to focus on his future without distractions. It stung at first, but over time, I stopped being angry. If anything, it made me better. I learned how to budget, how to survive without a safety net. While Alex was partying, I was grinding. After college, I landed a solid job in tech. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well, and I threw myself into it. While my coworkers were upgrading their cars and renting fancy apartments, I lived below my means. I maxed out my 401k, opened an IRA, invested every extra dollar. My motto was simple: live on half, invest the rest, buy your freedom. Meanwhile, Alex's life was different. Despite having an Ivy League degree, he couldn't hold down a job. He'd start somewhere, then quit a few months later because it wasn't challenging enough, or because they didn't appreciate his genius. He convinced himself he was destined for greatness, some startup CEO, some industry disruptor. He just needed the right opportunity. And until then, he lived like he was already successful. Luxury apartments, designer clothes, the latest gadgets, expensive dinners with networking opportunities. He spent more than he earned. Then, one day, he announced he was starting his own business. My parents were ecstatic. They saw it as his big break and poured tens of thousands into it. It didn't last a year. The business collapsed, leaving him with massive debt, credit card bills, unpaid vendors, loans. And, as always, my parents stepped in to save him. They covered his rent, helped him relocate, told him it was just a temporary setback. Meanwhile, I kept grinding. By the time I hit 35, I realized something incredible. I could retire. Years of saving and investing had paid off. I didn't need to work anymore. For the first time in my life, I was free. Excited, I shared the news with my family, expecting them to be proud. Alex gave me a half-hearted congratulations. My parents? Their smiles were forced. Their voices too polite. Something felt off. Then, the comments started. Little things at first. Not everyone has the same financial luck. Families should support each other. Then, more direct. My mom brought up how unfair it was that one son could retire while the other was struggling with debt. And then, finally, she said it outright. Alex is drowning in debt, Nate. He's stressed, he can't sleep. He just needs a little help to get back on his feet. You're in such a good position. You could change his life with just a fraction of what you've saved. I stared at her, feeling the weight of every sacrifice I had made. Are you asking me to give him my retirement savings? She sighed, like I was being difficult. Not give. Just lend. You don't need all of it right now, and he'll pay you back when he's stable again. A humorless laugh escaped me. Like he paid you back? Her expression hardened. You don't understand, Nate. He's your brother. We're family. We support each other. I clenched my jaw. I supported myself. I worked for every cent I have. And you, I exhaled sharply. You spent everything on Alex. You funded his education, his lifestyle, his business. And now you want me to fix it? My dad, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. We raised you, Nate. We gave you a good life. And now, when we need you to step up, you're turning your back on us. A cold, sinking feeling settled in my chest. You didn't raise me the way you raised Alex, I said quietly. I never asked you for a cent after I left for college. And now you expect me to give up my future for him. Dad's eyes darkened. We're not asking you to give up your future. Just help him out. You can work a few more years. I scoffed. Wow, that's actually your solution? Just work a few more years so I can fund his mistakes. Mom's voice wavered. We sacrificed so much for you, Nate. We did everything for you. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. No, you did everything for him. A heavy silence filled the room. For the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't about fairness. It never had been. To them, my success wasn't mine. It was just another resource they could use to support Alex. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I'm not giving him a single dollar. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Nate, please. But I was already walking away. As I reached the door, my dad's voice rang out, cold and final. If you walk out that door, don't expect us to be there for you when you need family. I turned back, meeting his gaze. I never have. And then, I left. I didn't expect things to get better overnight. But I also didn't expect them to get so much worse. At first, there was silence. No calls. No messages. Just nothing. Amy and I enjoyed the quiet while it lasted. We went out to dinner. Took long walks. Spent evenings watching our favorite shows without my phone buzzing every few minutes. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time. It started with a text from my cousin Mark. Hey man, just checking in. Everything okay with your folks? That was the first red flag. Mark and I weren't particularly close, and he never just checked in. I ignored it. Then, a day later, another message. Look, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but your parents are really upset. Maybe you should talk to them. I frowned at the screen. Amy, who had been sitting next to me, glanced over. What's wrong? I sighed, tossing my phone onto the coffee table. My parents are spreading their version of the story. She raised an eyebrow. Already? I nodded. They didn't waste any time. A few hours later, the messages really started rolling in. Aunt Linda, family sticks together. Nate, your brother needs you. You're better than this. Uncle Rick, I don't know what's going on, but your mom is devastated. Just call her. Some distant cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Damn, bro. You'd really do your own blood like that. I deleted the messages without responding. Then, the guilt-tripping ramped up. My mom took her campaign to social media. She posted a long, emotional rant about how she and my dad had sacrificed everything to give me a good life, only for me to abandon them in their time of need. She talked about how Alex had fallen on hard times, and how some people forget where they came from once they have money. She never mentioned my name. She didn't have to. The comment section was full of support. You raised such an ungrateful son. Breaks my heart to see parents treated this way. He'll regret this when it's too late. I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. Amy leaned over my shoulder. Wow, she really went for it. I let out a bitter laugh. Of course she did. Amy reached for my hand. You okay? I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to unclench my fists. Yeah, I expected this. She squeezed my hand. You know this isn't about you, right? It's about control. They can't guilt you directly, so now they're trying to use everyone else to do it for them. I nodded, but that didn't make it sting any less. Then, the worst message came in. An unknown number. You really called the cops on your own brother? What kind of piece of shit does that? Alex. I stared at the words, my heart pounding in my ears. Amy saw the look on my face. Him. I nodded. She grabbed the phone, read the message, and scoffed. Wow. He steals your identity, takes out a loan in your name, and you're the problem. I let out a sharp breath, running a hand through my hair. Yeah, sounds about right. Amy narrowed her eyes. Are you going to reply? I thought about it. For a second, I wanted to. I wanted to lay into him, to remind him of everything. But then I realized he wanted that. He wanted me to react. So I blocked the number. Amy smiled. Good choice. A few days later, my credit card got declined at the grocery store. At first, I thought it was just a glitch. Maybe the bank flagged the purchase. Then I checked my account. A new loan had been taken out in my name. A large one. My stomach dropped. There was only one person who had my personal information. Alex. When I got home, I tossed my keys onto the counter and pulled out my phone. Amy, we have a problem. She looked up from her laptop, immediately concerned. What happened? I took a deep breath. Alex took out another loan in my name. Her face darkened. Are you kidding me? I shook my head, gripping the back of a chair to steady myself. Nope. He stole my identity. Again. Amy stood up, grabbing her phone. We need to call the bank. Freeze your credit. File a police report. I exhaled slowly, nodding. Yeah, I know. But even as I said it, something heavy settled in my gut. Because this wasn't just about the money. This was betrayal. And this time, there was no coming back from it. Filing the police report was easier than I expected. Emotionally, it was hell. The moment I told the officer what happened, I felt like something inside me snapped. Not in anger, anger had come and gone, but in a deep, gut-wrenching way that made me realize there was no going back. I was turning my own brother in, and I didn't regret it. The bank confirmed that the loan had been taken out using my social security number. The fraud department launched an investigation, and within a few days, I got another call from the police. They had enough evidence to move forward. Alex was going to be charged. The fallout was immediate. The moment my parents found out, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. I ignored the calls. Then the text started. Mom, Nate, please. This is a misunderstanding. Mom, you don't have to do this. Just talk to Alex. Mom, for God's sake, he's your brother. Then came the voicemails. One after another, each more frantic than the last. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone as it buzzed relentlessly on the coffee table. Amy sat beside me, her legs curled up beneath her. You gonna listen to any of those? I exhaled slowly. Not right now. She nodded. Good. Then, one final message came through. From my dad. I almost didn't open it. But something about seeing his name made my chest tighten. I pressed play. His voice was steady, controlled. But there was an edge to it, an underlying bitterness he wasn't even trying to hide. You've made your choice, Nate. And I hope you're happy with it. But let me make something clear. If you go through with this, you're not just cutting off Alex. You're cutting off this entire family. Don't come crawling back when you realize what you've done. I clenched my jaw. Amy reached over, resting a hand on my arm. Hey. Her voice was soft. You okay? I let out a slow breath. Yeah. I knew this was coming. I just didn't think it would still hurt. Amy squeezed my arm. That's because you're a good person, Nate. You actually care. I gave a small, bitter laugh. Maybe that's the problem. A few days later, the police contacted Alex. He was officially being investigated for identity theft. And my parents? They lost it. I was in the middle of a work call when the pounding on my front door started. Amy rushed in from the kitchen, eyes wide. I think it's them. I sighed, muting my laptop. Of course it is. I opened the door just enough to see my mom standing there, her face red and blotchy from crying. Dad was next to her, arms crossed, jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Can we come in? Mom asked, her voice shaking. I hesitated. Then, finally, I stepped aside. They walked in, looking around the house like they hadn't been here in years. Which, honestly, they hadn't. Amy stood by the kitchen, arms crossed, watching silently. I turned to my parents. What do you want? Mom wiped at her face. You know why we're here. I nodded. Yeah. You're here to convince me to drop the charges. Mom flinched at how easily I said it. Dad's nostrils flared. He's your brother, Nate. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. Yeah? And? What does that change? Dad took a step closer, lowering his voice. Everything. You don't send family to jail. You don't. He stole from me. My voice was calm, but I could feel my hands shaking. He committed fraud. He used my name, my credit, and you expect me to just let it slide? Mom's lower lip trembled. He was desperate, Nate. I laughed, shaking my head. He's always desperate. And you always bail him out. But not this time. Mom reached for my arm, but I pulled away. Nate, please, she whispered. He's facing real charges. A criminal record will ruin his life. I met her eyes. He ruined his own life. Dad exhaled sharply. We can fix this. We'll pay off the loan. I cut him off. No. You don't get to clean up his mess again. Not with my money. Not with my future. Mom started crying harder, but I just felt tired. Dad clenched his fists. So that's it? You're really going through with this? I nodded. Yeah, I am. Mom shook her head, tears streaming down her face. We raised you, Nate. We gave you everything. I let out a slow, humorless breath. You raised me to take care of myself. And I did. Dad's expression darkened. If you do this, you're no son of mine. I didn't even flinch. I just nodded. Then I guess we're done here. Silence. Mom let out a choked sob, turning toward the door. Dad hesitated for half a second before following her. I didn't watch them leave. I just shut the door, locked it. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The silence after they left was deafening. I stood there, staring at the closed door, my heart pounding. Not from fear, not even from anger, just a strange, hollow feeling in my chest. Amy was the first to break the silence. "You okay?" I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Yeah." She gave me a look, the kind that told me she wasn't buying it. I walked over to the couch and sat down, rubbing my hands over my face. I should feel relieved, right? I muttered. They're finally out of my life. No more guilt trips. No more expectations. Amy sat beside me, tucking her legs under herself. But I exhaled slowly. But it still fucking hurts. She didn't say anything. Just reached out and laced her fingers through mine. Warm, steady. A reminder that no matter how much my family turned against me, I wasn't alone. For the next few days, I tried to push everything to the back of my mind. Work helped. Keeping busy helped. But the weight of it all still clung to me, no matter how hard I tried to shake it off. Then, the next blow came. I was on a lunch break when an email notification popped up on my phone. The subject line made my stomach drop. Fraud investigation update. I clicked on it, scanning the words quickly. Alex had been formally charged. I swallowed hard, setting my phone down. My hands felt clammy. My chest tight. I knew this was coming. I had wanted this. But seeing it in black and white made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Amy noticed my change in expression immediately. "What is it?" I turned the phone toward her, letting her read for herself. She nodded slowly. "Good." I let out a dry laugh. "Jesus, Ames. No hesitation?" She shrugged. "He stole from you. He deserves whatever happens next." I stared at her, a bitter smile tugging at my lips. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." She grinned. "Oh, trust me, you'd know." That made me laugh, at least for a second. But the moment was short-lived, because just as I was about to put my phone down, another notification popped up. A voicemail. From my mom. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the play button. Amy noticed. "You don't have to listen to it." I sighed. "I know." But I pressed play anyway. Her voice was thick with emotion, frantic, almost desperate. "Nate, please. You don't have to do this. He's your brother. Do you understand what's going to happen to him? Do you even care? He'll have a record, Nate. A criminal record. His life will be ruined. You're sending your own family to jail over money." She took a shaky breath. "I don't even know who you are anymore." Then, softer. "You used to be a good son." The message ended with a beep. I clenched my jaw, tossing my phone onto the table. Unbelievable. Amy sighed. "They really don't get it, do they?" I shook my head. "Nope. Because this was never about Alex taking responsibility. It was never about fairness. It was about control. About my parents keeping the same cycle going, the one where Alex screws up and someone else fixes it. But not this time. That night, I made a decision. I blocked my parents' numbers. I blocked every relative who had tried to guilt-trip me. I wasn't going to let them drag me back in. Because for the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. A week passed. Then two. And for the first time in my life, I had silence. No calls. No guilt-tripping texts. No social media posts painting me as the villain. I thought maybe, just maybe, they had finally given up. Then, one afternoon, Amy and I were having coffee on the patio when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. But something in my gut told me to answer. "Hello." A deep sigh on the other end. Then, "Nate, it's Mark. My cousin. The one who had just checked in a few weeks ago, clearly sent by my parents to guilt-trip me." I tensed. "What do you want?" Mark hesitated. "Look, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but you should know Alex got arrested this morning." I went still. Amy, who had been watching me, frowned. "What is it?" I covered the mic. "Alex was arrested." Her eyebrows lifted slightly, but she didn't look shocked. Just unsurprised. I turned back to the phone. "I thought he was only being charged." "He was," Mark said. "But he missed a court date. Guess he thought if he ignored it, it would just go away. The judge issued a warrant. Cops picked him up this morning." I let out a slow breath. "And my parents?" Mark sighed. "Losing their damn minds. Saying you're destroying the family. That they begged you to fix this, but you wouldn't listen." I clenched my jaw. "Of course." Mark hesitated again. Then, carefully, he said, "I gotta ask, Nate, do you feel anything about this?" I thought about it. For so long, I had been the one cleaning up after Alex's mistakes. Watching him make reckless decisions, knowing our parents would always be there to catch him. Knowing I would never get that kind of safety net. Now, for the first time, He was dealing with the consequences. Real consequences. And instead of feeling guilty, all I felt was relief. So I answered honestly, "No, Mark. I don't." Mark was silent for a long moment. Then he let out a small chuckle. "You know what? I don't blame you." That caught me off guard. "You don't?" Nani said. "I used to think your parents were just supporting Alex, but now I see it. They enabled him. They let him fail over and over again and expected everyone else to pay for it. And when you wouldn't, they threw you under the bus." I didn't say anything. Mark sighed. "I guess I just wanted to say, I get it now." It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was something. "Thanks," I said simply. After we hung up, Amy gave me a look. "How do you feel?" I thought about it for a second. Then I smiled. Free. And I meant it. For the first time in my life, I didn't owe my family anything. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their backup plan. I was done. Amy reached across the table, lacing her fingers through mine. "So, what now?" I exhaled, letting the last of the weight slip off my shoulders. "Now." I smiled. "Now we live."